Good morning, everybody. What's going on? Happy Tuesday, May 4th. Today is the day I get my jab. I'm going to be vaccinated like the rest of the world. So that's at lunchtime. We'll see when I come back if I'm sick and dying. I'm going to prove everyone that vaccines are safe by not dying. So we'll see how that goes. Markets. Growth is opening a little bit lower. When we look across the board, this is the most interesting thing. It's the 2 year that's up about 14.25% right now. Now, I've talked about this in the past that the 2 year is basically the most sensitive bond that the Fed would look at. 10 year is sort of the most important overall, but in terms of sensitivity that the Fed would react to, it's the 2 year. Let's put this into perspective a little bit, and here's where the bond villain thing comes back in and why we know this is just a blip sort of situation. Right now, right, we have this prerogative by some investors to basically get the Fed to change interest rates quicker, or they believe it's going to be changed quicker, and so they're making trades to push it further into that area. What makes interest rates go up? The economy's coming back really hot, and when all asset classes are basically running very hot together, right? We see the economy's booming, jobs are coming back very quickly, markets are rising very quickly, valuations are going up. We just had a really great earnings season so far. Looks like it's going to continue. So everything looking great. Again, the market's at all-time high. We've been at all-time highs every single day. Even though we had sort of a slower sort of last few days, we've actually been at all-time high, not just in our exchanges, the entire world, right? Besides China and some of that Asian regulation going on, right? This here is very much purposeful. You can see how yields are going down on longer term bonds. It's only the 2 year, and so you have a direct sort of confrontation between people are selling some growth to buy, or excuse me, we had some selling of growth to buy longer term bonds, and now they're selling off the 2 years to jack the yield up. Again, there's a lot of different ways that the yields cross with each other in how you can do this, and it doesn't really take much, especially with something sensitive like the 2 year anyway. And so this morning we have, right, we're really not doing much in terms of action here. We're down about 1% on Apple, Microsoft. Google's break even, which again I think Google is the one mega cap that sort of it shows exactly where we are. So if we look at those, we do look at Google, right? Look at where this price is. I talked a lot about how we continued through all-time high nonstop here. We had these sideways consolidations. That this is a good example of what do the mega caps do? They just consume. They eat everyone else, right? They just take over every other company. Google has about twice as many acquisitions as the next mega cap, which is Microsoft, I believe. So this is a good example. When we look at the numbers here, value's looking very good, and things like, so I posted again. We already took this X trade, but I think it is important to show how this is now, we're up 3% pre-market here. This value trade, again, it's still the most sought after. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday, mentioned it going over into the weekend, that we're likely to see some more rotation into value to back up the economic numbers and the data that we saw, right? That's exactly what we're seeing a little bit here. Here's what's going to happen. And again, it doesn't really take very much. Here's what's going to happen. We have some pre-market selling here of some growth, right? It's just, we're literally only talking about the growth sides being sold a little bit here. If you look, energy's up significantly right now, right? We've done very well on that play. You're getting some selling and growth here. You have selling in the 2 year, okay? You have some buying on longer term. What are they going to do with that money when the bell rings? They're going to go buy value. And we're seeing it a little bit because there's some areas where you don't really have time. And again, there's a lot of different ways that you can track the flow here. I think it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious when we think of how the market's been trading all-time high, and sort of when you look at when you look at sort of the overall picture of everything's at all time high, but what's moving the quickest, what has the most speed, what looks like it's going to catch up the most, or not catch up the most, but put on the most speed from here on. It's certainly the value side. So we've done well with this idea of pushing longer term because we have gotten us a little bit of the slower movement, but even when we get these pullbacks or longer sideways consolidations, we're still trending through all-time high, and these are leading to further upside moves, right? And so that looks like what today is going to be a little bit is this not full rotations, but a little bit of rotations. And again, I talked about this yesterday. I really see people, or excuse me, like investors and institutions right now, they're trying to basically fill their portfolio now with exposure to everything. We got a little greedy on the growth side, right? We got a little greedy filling up through here. And even through this, which is again, when you look at this price action here, it's really easy to be like, well, we didn't even sort of pass the average. But again, this is where everything was really putting points on quickly. This price action here is still all-time high. This definitely looks like we're putting the rest of the exposure on everywhere, right? And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting, I think, to see because, again, I think I have a bias and opinion right now, which we continue to see be true, but then you get like you get some days here like today where you're going to get pullbacks, but we're looking at a long-term situation anyway, right? We're not thinking about it so much day to day. We're thinking about it over a week. And so if we finish this week with sort of a bang here and we get a lot of buying, then it doesn't really matter where we are here, which is why we need to take the opportunity that's given to us. And so it's not a question so much of it's a question of when do we buy these dips, right? We're always going to be buying them through our bias here. It's when do we buy them? We tried to do semis yesterday, right? Now, this is again where if you're able to basically get exposure to all of them and try to buy all of them together, you're going to do okay, right? UMC's up this morning 2%, but when you look at the rest of semis, if we just look at it on the average, right, we're down about 45 basis points from yesterday, right? Which is probably okay if you took longer term options. You're going to be okay, but when you still look at these, we're kind of coming down to the next support. This is again where this kind of trade here, it doesn't pay off the first day. A lot of people will quit right here. A lot of people will quit. They get out of the position, they quit, they go look for something else. This is now we're at a new support. This is again where I'm going to be pulling the trigger and looking to swing it to the upside. And if I can push it past a swing and push it into a longer term, then great, right? This sort of thing, again, just to use semis as an example, that's the whole point of what we do here, right? We're trying to capture things because nothing's a guarantee, but the only time we're going to get a good price is when prices are pulling back and it's not exactly clear, right? If you ask everyone anytime about price, it'd just be 50-50. People would be like, buy, sell, and you'd be 50-50 on some of these. We're trying to get it a little bit better than that, right? Where we have some levels, and sometimes it's not going to be right the first time, but if we can get it right the second or third time and get paid for it, the minimal losses are always going to be worth it, right? And that's again where if you're holding any longer term positions here on some of the growth side, again there is some things on the value side that are down as well. For instance, GE coming down here today. Again, you're not really losing much here, and I talked a little bit about this yesterday. Where this position where I took on Friday, again, this is I'm trying to go through the lens of newer trades that we've just entered. This entry on Friday, I get 2.5% yesterday. You lose 0.5% this morning, you're at support. The only way I'd get out of this trade is if I get stopped out. These sort of things, sometimes it's going to be, sometimes it's going to be you are getting stopped out and you have to re-enter. Some of the times you're going to lose a little bit here. This is an area where you can't be selling just because the way other things look, right? You only down 0.5% here. You hold this and you continue to push it. Again, pushing the envelope a little bit further. We've had some examples where there are areas where you'd be taking profit on sort of these 2-candle pullbacks, but with a longer term bias, we're pushing through them. Right now is certainly we're really in that area right now of basically you're gonna have to stop me out, right? You're gonna have to stop me out on these positions, and that's how it's likely to be for quite some time now. I would say this week is definitely looking like a Dow week. So with last week was basically the Dow tickers did the best. The average was up the most last week overall. I would say this week doesn't look any different. If we just look, we're getting affected negatively by growth right now, but it's 40 basis points because of again Apple is basically it. So the rest of the tickers, again, banks and energy are looking great. And so this is where, again, I've talked about if you have not been a part of these positions, then it probably feels really silly that you're trying to make other things work when it's been very clear what's working, right? And so this is, again, where today I'm going to be losing some money on some of these growth tickers, right? But I'm being carried by my long-term sort of positions, and it's not just one or two, it's my portfolio. My portfolio is this value side, right? That's basically my portfolio. The rest are these trades that we're trying to capture, and it's a lot more points quickly, right? And that's what you want to be doing. We're hunting right now because the market's trading flat. Again, yesterday, so again, the Dow looking the best. So again, that's the area that should be focused on. But yesterday, we had a lot of these tickers that we had a lot of opportunities to go to take trades, right? There was a lot of trades out there. I wouldn't say today's gonna be any different. I think the whole week's gonna be very similar. When we look, basically anything that's broken out in the last 2 weeks or so, really this whole month has, or excuse me, all of April. We're now in May, but this whole last month has been just significant breakouts every day and continuing, right? What did we get yesterday? Retail stores, right? So again, if we're down today, what about the gains we made yesterday? So if you didn't get gains yesterday, and now you're losing today, well then that's exactly why we're using this idea of the best day to enter was yesterday, which maybe if you entered yesterday, you're down today, and it's going to be today that you need to enter, right? Right now, it's not. It seems like it's day to day to enter, but again, we're not looking to sell the next day. You're not looking to get out of that trade this week. You want to hold it much longer than that. So when you're looking for these opportunities, again, it needs to be. We're trying to take a very intraday approach to our entries and possibly even buying on the selling that's happening that day, pulling into support, not even waiting for the next open, right? That's really what we're looking for right now, but that translates into a much longer trading. So you get a day like today, there's nothing wrong here. There's nothing wrong here, and we're getting transitions in the market, right? Nothing has changed. We're going to need to see some selling here, right? You would need to see selling in a loss of this. There's no long positions exiting, right? When there's no longs being exited and prices just flat like this, that means there's opportunities for us to buy. That's just the reality. Price breaks out, consolidates, breaks out, right? We just don't know the timing it's going to break out. Usually we wait for the breakout, right? And then we trade it. We're not waiting. There's no reason to wait for us. Most of you, and probably, well, I am positioned. Most of you are probably positioned on long-term trades already. If you look at your options, you're not losing anything here. And that's really where you can keep the finger on the pulse. You look at your options and you go, okay, we're trading flat and I'm up. And that IV maybe continues to change. Sometimes if we continue sideways for too long, we'll lose IV. Sometimes that's going to happen. I would say things like, let me put like Apple into perspective. This kind of price action will increase volatility a little bit. At the end of the day, you're still swinging back and forth every day, and people are actually trading. And so options are getting a little intensive because, again, you're basically around the same price, and so you're keeping the same contracts in play. That's where your gamma's maxed out, right? And you're right at the peak of basically the most possible moves happening at any moment. And when you stay flat, that's why your IV is increasing, because your gamma will stay at 1, right? So think of at the money contracts here around this 132 area, 132 and a half, right? This whole area right here, we've been within this whole time. So that's increasing the quantity of those calls the most in the puts. And what's happening is that those are still the most in demand, but they've been the most in demand for a couple weeks now. And so you're continuing to basically increase the supply here, but the demand has not, it's being consistent with that supply. And so what's happening again is that contract there in that area is basically becoming, if you look at the IV, it's widening. And the possible move is increasing. This move could either, it may be when you looked at it before, maybe before the possible move was something like this, right? And now over here, maybe it's something like this, right? That's a terrible line. Why is it so squiggly? But um, it's widening, and so again, our possibilities of moves are widening, and this is exactly why we take these, because we can get out of the downside a lot easier, but it's a lot harder to get into the upside because people are already here, and so that's why again we're pushing these positions and we're looking to be buyers, right? I talked about, for instance, the Microsoft right here. Look, you're back to where we started here. Am I not happy with this position? No, I'm actually happy with this position still. I could sit here. You didn't lose anything. You got volatility, and so again, we're right back to where we were. This is again not a loss of value; it's a loss of time, right? If you lose too much time, then you're in a consolidation, and then we can change our bias a little bit. But right now, certainly not. We have some more earnings coming. We'll see how those continue to. Again, I mean, everything's been pretty phenomenal. You can see the difference between there's some reactions to some, because it's like, well, you're just not doing as well as as your competitors. So there's some selling like on a fundamental idea for sure, and that's happening because of, again, this this need to spend money right now, and there's so many obvious things to buy that you're not going to sit in something that's not moving. So we'll continue to hunt. There's going to be opportunities again all week. So whether or not, again, we have I would say a lot of pressure on the travel side to get moves here. We're sort of entering an area where it looks like we're ready to take off, but maybe we won't. So that's going to be something we're going to be watching carefully. I'm in these positions across travel. It's going to be very interesting to see if this move comes out of here. This sort of price move we've seen, I think, lends to upside very quickly. And I would say again, this sideways trading always leads to momentum being generated, because if there's nothing to trade out there, you trade the thing that is tradable. And if there's only a few things that are tradable, to be able to basically momentum trade, then everyone goes and flocks to those, right? And I wouldn't say there's going to be anything much different than that. So, we're going to see. On the retail store side, everything held value. So that's phenomenal. So everyone that took those trades, we've been able to push those. They're basically, we're starting out right where we left off. So these trades, I said yesterday when we started to get those, I do see these running more. And again, there is this sort of rotation further into sort of the consumer side. Anything about consumer spending, we saw that all yesterday. We saw it basically faked from the economic numbers of last Wednesday. It looks like it's going to continue here. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a different sector today that's involved with that. Things like, again, we've already seen this PG move yesterday, but I think you will see a move further into this larger cap space of basically anything on the consumer side, where we see retail stores, and then that's why I think travel is going to get the move. And so I think you're going to get this continuation. Now, whether or not that's, again, pinpointing what exactly that is, for instance, the most obvious is oil, right? So demand is going up on the energy side. Obviously, that's very obvious. So the price goes up. That's why we use that as a benchmark. Retail stores. Well, obviously, people are going to go buy more shoes and clothes. These things are obvious. The next sort of thing is travel, but what comes after that? It's not very clear. It's hard. It's hard to think about what exactly it's going to be. So we have to just watch. We're gonna find and see what exactly it's gonna be. Now, we saw the transportation side, for instance, right, make a spike a few weeks ago, and now has continued. Those have been great trades, right? Now you get the surprise here on UPS, for instance. That's, if we just nullify that a little bit, we were already doing the transportation trade, right? And we've seen this go into the food and beverage side a little bit. These sort of trades here are great. You have more than a technical reason when you're buying on support. You have an idea. And I think, again, if you have an idea of what it is, now is the time that you can populate your bias a little bit with that. And I think it's okay to do that. Usually it shouldn't be centered around earnings where you go, well, I think people are are going out to eat more, so I bet the earnings are going to be good, so I'm going to bet on earnings. It doesn't work like that, right? You either just you make the trade, whether the earnings are happening or not, because of your idea, and you have a good entry, right? And a lot of times you can convince yourself that that was a good reason because you made money. Probably not. It's probably not, right? We're talking in a macro idea of why flows would come into a sector, right? And it's usually obvious. It should be really obvious, like retail stores yesterday. It was obvious that everyone was like, oh, economic numbers are good. Well, I bet people are going to spend more money. Well, duh. The data just said they spent more money, right? So keep that in mind for like hunting this week. I think ideas will be important. So anyway, that's that. Now, well, actually, I posted in the chat. Uh, I think this idea is really interesting. A little bit. I posted that article from FT. I just took a screenshot for you guys. I've talked about this a lot. Where right now we just have way too much cash everywhere. Right? Everyone has so much money that you can't spend it fast enough, and basically deposits are increasing at banks faster than they can give out loans, and so they just have a lot of cash sitting around. Now they want to spend that money, so they do, they find all kinds of different things to buy, but they can only buy so much, right? You can only buy so much before it's just too much, right? And for instance, giving out loans, right? You can only give out so many loans. Loans have stayed flat, but deposits are increasing, so they need to find something else to spend the money on. They started trading, right? Started trading. Now, again, regulations changed from the Fed of deposits, and so whether that's not it's used as an excuse, but the reality is that banks don't want cash on their books because it's going to basically dilute whatever it is they're doing. And so they need to get that money off their books. And so if you read that article, basically the idea of putting it into their own funds makes a lot of sense. This is something that's been done in the past. But basically, right now, ETFs are pretty fucking strong, right? Everyone's got their own fund and different ETFs and everything else. If we're gonna get more flows, and we have been seeing more flows, along with buybacks as well, right? Banks are buying back. Then again, our whole bias is very on point, and this idea of long term, and anytime there's any sort of any sort of weakness, those banks will be buying up those dips and adding flows into basically their ETFs and anything else, right? And so it's it's almost like we're in a state, and again, I haven't like talked to other people, and we don't it's not like, I mean, you can get opinions and see what people are thinking, but the reality is that we have a Fed that's going to support every single negative thing that can happen. And we've already seen that. There's nothing that could happen that the Fed wouldn't go provide liquidity on. We're providing fiscal stimulus, fiscal support, fiscal spending everywhere. And the companies themselves are buying back their stock anytime there's any weakness, or if they're at all-time high, just to keep fucking buying it. Banks are buying back theirs and providing basically the lever for anyone else to do that as well. And they're basically taking deposits off their book, which is going to increase their value, and they're throwing it back into the market. If those are not enough catalysts for every single dip to be bought significantly, then what are we even doing? And how did nothing make sense, right? We are again in a state of just sort of it is different. It is different, but the question is it going to finish differently, right? A lot of if you think about any time in the past in history, we should be basically I know we just started this cycle here, but we should basically be contracting this here and entering some sort of long-term consolidation, right? Like not like a quick correction. We should be people think that's what's going to happen, right? But at some point, not right now. And the thing is here, again, everyone knows that there's a possibility that doesn't happen because of low interest rates, unlimited spending, and QE, right? But there's a lot of people that think that that might happen, and investors always think that. They go, well, I don't know, maybe it'll go up, maybe it won't. And so, but again, I don't see any reason why, through what we have right now, we should not be being aggressive every single time there's anything given to us, right? And so whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, just putting a position on is worth it. In terms of probability, it's blatantly obvious, right? And there's a lot of, this is where that article, for instance, we already know that on a long term that we should be, it should be different in the sense that on a macro level, interest rates aren't going to change very quickly. The liquidity is not going to change. The spending's not going to change. The spending's over a long term, right? But in the short term as well, we have these very active flows that are continuing to populate any short term dip, which is again the space that we operate in. We don't operate in like a 5 year trajectory. We operate in like a couple weeks, right? Where we're looking for really quick swings and we're trying to trade options. If we're getting flows in the short term as well and populating some of these areas that will provide confidence in price and create these levels of support every time flows are coming into the market and creating stronger trends, then we're going to be able to find trends a lot easier, at least more efficiently, and we're going to be able to have supports that are more efficient where when price is actually being a little violent and volatile and it's pulling into a support, we know the support's going to hold because we know some flow is going to get triggered and enter the market, right? These sort of things are, again, we've gone from, okay, we have a long-term understanding, the buying, sure. But now even when you think of everything going on and how things have changed, even in a shorter term perspective, the weakness that's possibly there is being filled, right? And that's something that again, it should bring confidence that even if something doesn't work out the first time, if you keep fucking beating your head against the wall, it's going to work, right? There's it's scary to be buying on prices pulling back. And again, the average is just all time high. But when you look at anything that's pulled back, it's scary to go buy it. But has it failed? It's not failing, right? And of course, you can go, well, what if one time it does fail? Well, if we win 100 times and we lose one time, that one time you're not going to lose all your money because that's not how it works. It doesn't work like that, right? You don't you don't lose all your money when your trade doesn't work out. Do you win all the money when your trade actually works? No, of course not. You don't become rich from one trade. You're not going to lose everything from one trade either, right? And so again, the probability is on your side. Buying is on your side. Everyone else is doing it, right? And so what I'm saying is, for again a day like today, some of you may look at some positions, and again, I can look at things like semis and go, well, that's kind of not the best. But then I can go, but why why would it not get bought, right? Why not? Which says, what happened to Z? What happened to Z? Anyway, we got 2 minutes till the market. We will see what we get this morning. I do find the bond market really very cute. I think this goes right back to zero by probably 10 o'clock. Maybe not 10 o'clock. Maybe by lunch. But I bet you go from this. We were at 16% or so. I bet you go to zero by lunch. And the facade is over, as usual. But anyway, this energy thing is getting going again. The smaller scale side is certainly nice. Again, this PBF chart, this weekly chart I posted, I have to convert it over to weekly, but we had 14.5 yesterday. We're up another 0.5% this morning. We didn't even take profit on it. These kind of moves are certainly what we're looking for. Certainly what we're looking for. Oh, and the other thing, gold, the dollar. We're gonna be watching this. See if we can get any sort of. We got the flow yesterday. We'll see again if there's any sort of conversions here with the dollar coming. Again, we have some macro moves that are being basically bond dependent right now, but we'll sniff it out. We'll sniff it out. See what we get here. Opening 0.5% lower. Again, it's just mega caps. Basically megas. Chegg had that nasty move down intraday yesterday. We'll see if how much that gets bought. Gonna be watching the sell side a lot more today because again, we want to be looking for opportunities on that side. we're getting going. See. Value. Value, value, value. Again, we're gonna be watching the banks and see if we get any what happened here? See if we're getting buybacks, how much we're getting them too. Looking for those orders that are being placed is an important thing right now, which I've been doing. Trying to follow level 2. See if we get it's mostly all at the open and the orders are going through, but then you get it pushed throughout the whole day. And looking for those and finding that and finding out how much is actually being spent and again the hard part is understanding what exactly you need to be how you transition these positions. Like eventually you get closer to expiration, you need to take profit. So you want to have already been you want to already build a new position to take its place, right? And so that's the hardest question to answer here. And so if you can get the timing on buybacks and basically any new flows going in, be nice. Looks like we're just sticking on the same trend though, so thing get a little bit longer. Again, our the healthcare side is just it's super bullish right now. There's so many flows going in there. Pfizer released their thing this morning as well. Like the money that's being made there, I think is warming up that long term flavor beyond the ideas I've already talked about. We've obviously done very well with the Myrna trade so far, but all these other bios that we've been just playing, you can play the bios all in short term. I mean, it's a lot of fun, definitely fun. Let's see. And we have things like AMD on support here. Buying it, buying it. It's basically an average down. I mean, 2% options are not that different. This is, I mean, it's just fucking easy. I would say a lot. This kind of shit here, again, it's hard to tell, but it just seems like someone wants to buy more. And it's like, what is that? It's just the price action is a little too much on the semi side. It's a little too much. No one's, again, the price is coming down for, it's not coming down intraday. It's coming down in pre-market here, so after hours. So it's kind of, like this price. I talked about this price action yesterday on UMC. Well, like what is that? The people that bought exited it. I mean, it don't make any sense. Don't make no sense. You Google coming back down, catching up to its Patriots. I'd be buying this right here. The timing is not going to be easy. We put limits to, I think, like 130 on things like that. Again, just to put into the support here. You put your limit in, get filled to the support. That kind of idea. This is actually pretty fucking quick, actually. Rotation City right now, actually. Again, don't get spooked. Don't get spooked. It's this. Buy it. Buy it. I'm not even joking. I'm not even kidding. Buy it. Microsoft, you can see how this didn't even move. I'm in the same position there. But the big boys like this, that's a very straightforward, I think. You would need to see some fucking World War III type shit for that to sell off from there. X, we're still holding where we just opened from. Let's see. Energy keeps getting more. We're getting more on the, again, on the super cycle through commodities. This kind of shit, like look how easy this is to spot across every single, this is, again, every single every single part of the integrations of oil, whether it's pipes and fucking the gas, everything. It's all of it's going up on that side. We continue to pound on that side. I mean, it's just the straightforward trade. This kind of shit here, again, there's something here. And so if you're not a part of the T trade, or at least through this space, the communication side, toll, cable, and everything else, there's something there. Again, we can put that with consumer spending a little bit, but it's mostly M&A, I would say. Twitter, I didn't buy it yesterday. It's possible to, I mean, it's, if it doesn't move, if it doesn't budge, then it'll be like the Netflix trade, where when this sits here, it's like you can just sit here for a week, but then eventually it's going to swing back up. Possible to take that. See. This is a doji that's almost uh, writes itself. See, let's find something that's just brutal down here. Something like Z. Wiz mentioned Z earlier. Nothing's happened to Z. It's just continuing to consolidate. I talked about this yesterday. You just push this trend line over to the top. It's hard to time. You can't really time this. Can't really time it. It's after hours, I think, as well. I will probably, I already talked about this. I'll take this trade. I will take that trade. Again, clean energy showing us why we have removed that from our equation. We are not touching that. Fucking disgusting. Some of those moves are, it really shows, it really shows the trading for now mentality with value. Ford, there you go. That's why I didn't touch it. Hindsight Nancy over here. But that's why I didn't buy it. Retail stores, we'll see if that holds there. ETFs are a lot better at holding. Look at that perfect touch there. ETFs are a lot easier at holding our levels here. Much more straightforward. See, everything. It looks like everything's picking back up now. See, look at that. Oh, I love it, dude. I fucking love it. What a, wait a second. Oh, it's fucking switched back. Fucking TradingView cucked me, dude. Oh. I thought the yield changed already. Oh, I was gonna die. I'm gonna die. Fuck. I thought I'd already switched back. Can I not click on the chart here? It's gonna switch. I know it's going to. I absolutely know it's going to. It's gonna come right back down. I mean, technically this should have already been higher, but we came out of it. This move yesterday. I mean, this is a violent move yesterday, and that's why we're getting some reaction here to open. This is gonna come down though. It's gonna come down. That money's gonna come flinging back. You can just tell because of the way the 10-year is. I mean, kind of silly, but oh, here you go. More transportation. C continues here. C's continuing. Gross. Gross. See, most bios are still going. This is great. I think we got that pretty well. This check thing, I'm not sure about. I don't think I can buy that. Gross. Worse than Twitter, I would say. Gold, we continue. It's nice. Work. Containers. Go. You have to love it. Whole value thing. It's phenomenal. My new favorite word, phenomenal. That's a perfect spot. I wouldn't even doubt it if Apple starts buying back that one dude that's at their trading desk at Apple. They got him trading on the iPhone or the new. I guess they got the new Macs, right? The new big boys. Hey Johnny, buy us some shares at 130 to 128. I'm not sure about that INTC move. Obviously, got stopped out of that. Honeywell onto the trend line. That's gonna be fun. V looks like it's stopping that pullback. Again, healthcare keeps going. I mean, this is the most straightforward fucking trade I've had in my life. There's been, I mean, this is probably the most straightforward I've ever had a trade. It's almost silly to have such a bias and then to have a fucking straight line. No weakness ever. This is probably one of my better sector calls I've had in a while. Let's see. This is gonna be interesting. It's definitely really interesting to think about here. It's a pre-market candle. The pre-market and the rest of the world was bullish so far. It's really interesting. And I think it's all the bond, which we haven't got a reaction to the bond market in a little while, though. Germany's down, but UK's up. Hang Seng was fine. Japan sold a little bit, but it was reaction to basically this clean energy idea they have to by 2030 to be fully clean energy or whatever, which is insane. But they're gonna fucking switch. They're also very nuclear heavy, which is also something I'm gonna talk about not right now, but I do see most of these energy companies when it comes to. There's actually an article that came out on Financial Times today talking about Exxon and Chevron. What are they gonna do with the fucking hundreds of billions of cash they have to convert to clean energy? They are not going to. I mean, they're going to be buying solar and wind, but if there's anything that these companies would do, the easiest way to spend a lot of money very quickly, right? So, for instance, Apple has a shit ton of cash, right? They're going to spend 450 or 430 billion over 5 years because they want to spend the money quick. They don't want cash on their book. They want to spend it, make it turn into something. You know how you can spend money really fucking quick on the energy side? Building new nuclear power plants. That's called spending a fucking ton of money very quickly. And it's clean energy. And we haven't really had a boom in the nuclear space for a long time. That I I have a friend that I grew up with that he's smarter than I am, but he basically he went to Columbia. He's basically gone into the clean energy space, but he's very adamant about being against nuclear. He doesn't so much. He thinks it's the component of sort of the waste that comes out. He thinks would over time add up to something that's you wouldn't be able to take care of. Which I agree with. The waste is a problem, but it's very easy just for us to kind of deal with it at the like. I would say it's really not the biggest problem to fucking deal with, right? And the factor, the factor of how much energy nuclear produces and how it's clean. I mean, it's a little too. I don't know why we would fucking pass up the point. It's just fucking go nuclear. I'd love to see a nuclear bill by Biden. Fucking just hand out the contracts. Exxon, Chevron. You want them to stop fucking polluting the world? Give them contracts to go build nuclear plants. Give them the blueprints, everything they need. Go fucking build them. Done. Get rid of the old fucking shitty ones that have problems. We already know that the new nuclear plants, the natural crises, terrorist attacks, they will not fail with the new nuclear plants. They're instant cutoffs. All those old ones like Fukushima happened because it was a fucking out of date nuclear plant from when we first invented the damn thing. go nuclear, boys. By the way, it's getting toasty in here, but we're holding everything. It looks like the rest of the market caught up a little bit. Banks this week is very cute, and it's definitely a buyback, by the way. Or it's like some buying on the bank side preparing for it. PayPal Square Inc. E-word tomorrow. Oh yeah, yeah. We'll see how much the Bitcoin thing affects us again. Very curious. I'm not entering this shit. I'm very staying away. Not even Ethereum. Staying away. I don't like that candle, by the way. I'm not a big fan of that candle. Interesting. Let's see. Lost about 1%, or we've lost about 1.5% since the high. It's less than 1.5%. We've lost basically 1.25% from the all-time high. So again, we're barely off the high. It's just the placement of the candle makes it, which is why I want to buy it. It was the top. I think Ecto is doing the nervous laugh type in chat right now. That's the nervous laugh. What are you in that you're nervous about? Hand them to me. Let's see them. What's Tesla doing? If you were still in contracts. The Neo rejection at this level is interesting. It's gonna be very interesting to see what happens here. I didn't really think about too much. This is affecting the average quite a bit, actually. Oh, you only get shares now. Gotcha, gotcha. Not bad. Not a bad decision for the timeline, right? Very exciting when you're in shares, right? My chart layout changed. Whoops. Nice. Keep trying to look at this. Candle right there is not good so far. But I feel like it's gonna move a lot. We continue to hold on value across the board. Even these moves on like Urban, you're getting technical reactions, but and you should have some take profit from the big moves from yesterday anyway. Some of those look very good. I like that. VA is concerning. I have to see what that looks like. Not a big fan of that candle so far. It's a good spot to buy it though. Buying time. That position I got stopped out on accident. I shouldn't have got stopped out on that. It was the way that the GE, I coupled those trades together, grouped them, because I'm not sure how I got stopped out, but happens. Keep it interacting with the trend line. We'll see how long that takes. Definitely some blood out there. Definitely some blood that we can take. These moves are really not straightforward, though. Not touching forward. Uber move did not work out. We got it the opposite way. This is after... Did this come this morning? This wasn't this morning, right? I think we said it's after hours on Uber, right? Yeah, it's after. This is a good spot for it. I mean, we didn't get it yesterday. Again, it's definitely one of those weeks so far. We take these trades yesterday, some of them get stopped out, and we buy them again today, but at a better price. I mean, it's better to buy it here than where we bought these things yesterday. Buying for 3% lower is significantly better because the upside is the same, right? That's where going into earnings, I'm okay with some of those more earnings oriented. You just have to position around the earning contracts a little bit. They're too supply heavy. And again, there's some fucking hedging that it's just impossible to avoid. You get hedged on and your contracts turn into fucking shit. Sometimes it can produce a move, but if they're at the money. At the money going into earnings would be fine. You don't usually get that unless you're playing specifically earnings. So UMC is has not moved off this too much. It's starting to move. See what this turns into. Fucking hard to read this. You're on your own. I mean, I'm gonna hold it. I'm holding it. Stopping out here, you're gonna lose some percent, that's for sure. If I get triggered here. We're gonna see because it'll skip right over me. We'll see what that looks like. AMD, for instance, is holding this here, and I like the bid candles coming off here. So again, I'm fine with these areas like this. I think it's actually very strong, even though the chart's fucking bearish overall. But it's got a lot of sector performance coming with it. It's gonna be a really cool day. I'm really curious to see things like this. You get like a GS move like this. Let's see what they do. Right? Because we get the move. We were looking for further upside, but we've entered some different moves coming around the differences between the difference of the banks. This sort of move here is very much just a pullback. But how much is the pullback, and how many, how many sort of flows come in here, and then how much of it just buybacks? Time to go back to the high. The trend line. I don't see this trend line is just not as well. Let's see. Is this our other trend line? Okay, it's on the other trend line. That's actually the OG trend line. That's the OG trend line. Yeah. Okay, we bought on the trend line support. Beautiful. Apple did go further, but still sticking with that. And we do it again. We do it again. Whip City. See, small caps are the average is so bad. A lot of volatility on the energy side. Can we get an accurate reading on this? Bip. I think this move is there's something about this shit over here. Something about it. Art is so bad. Something about it. All right, we got a lot of red to buy today, guys. A lot of red to buy today. See. First things first is anything that gets stopped out is being rebought. And then anything, this is a good point from talked about yesterday. Some of these trades that we've been long on for a while, today's a good opportunity to transition. So I've started to do that on some, transition that position a little bit. Take those profits home. I don't think retail stores are so much. I don't think you fucking sell them the next day is just bad. Not doing that. Okay, are we gonna do this again? Shop on the 1089. It's just too juicy. The question is here is, are we waiting until open tomorrow? And I just don't know if it's a good idea to. I think a lot of this here again is very it's very game theoried out by the players, sort of like the retail move yesterday. I think there's a little bit more control in the market than it's hard to tell because we've just been going all-time high every single fucking day, and or every week at least, and it's just been endless buying. And coming ever since growth come out of that consolidation, it's just been fucking, there's been nothing. And so when we finally get a little bit of volatility, you see the move happening on the bond side, which you know is a lot of money. And so then it translates and populates here. We saw the move with the dollar. These different things line up to flows, and you look at some of the moves on the growth side. We knew growth would be what moved, and it's moving way. The move is just too. It's too clear. It's like way too planned. When you get selling, it should not be so consistent, right? It should not look so consistent. And then the money finds a play. How does the money find a home immediately, right? We're seeing equal inflow and outflow. That kind of thing lends to, I think, pulling the trigger earlier because somebody else will, based on everything that we know. And it's probably those. I talked about this a little bit where we had those sell days that led. We would literally have a sell day that led into more call buying, and it's like, okay, well, the people that are selling are literally the ones buying the fucking calls. And then the price jacks back up. So, let's see. But we get like a move here. That's why I'm watching it. Things like shop coming through the level here. I mean, you have more. You have more support right down into here. So it's a little bit of a zone. Hard to tell the connection between if we pull value growth. Energy was already doing well, so it's hard to. It's not really rotating there. This chemical side, I just don't understand either. We're just riding this whole thing. It's very bullish. Not exactly sure what is happening over there. How much are we going to get into gold and silver here? This move as well is off. It's almost like the XLE compared to crude. The lag. All right, we passed the trend line. Oh boy, it's going to be fun. This is where the marbles are made. Oops. That's what I meant. This is where the marbles are made. I don't know what that means. I think we got good timing. I think we have good timing. Microsoft still is at that low, so I've held that position. Google here is, it's harder to tell, but I mean, we do have some ideas right here. Apple's gone through a little bit. We came back down to this wick held. I think it's a good lineup. And again, we're doing well on the long term stuff. I've gotten out of basically all the shorts. Short term, those got re-entered though. I'm okay with the moves. These are the thing is here is that these are significantly different. These are significantly different. That's 6.5. This is 9. Tesla, I don't know if I think you wait for it to come back. I don't know if it comes down or if it holds this here. I mean, maybe this is the spot, but this is just, you have to be more patient. It's too volatile. Those contracts are not going to be pretty. Like, these contracts are going to be bad. The contracts that you could have bought here now look bad comparatively. They did not hold the value there. Because the volatility was already so high here. Now it's the same volatility, but you lost time. Some of those are hard to tell. Those were definitely waits for tomorrow. And I think we're going to actually snap back here quickly. People are going to fucking buy the shit out of this guy. So, again, this is where the best day to enter is yesterday. So today. Today's going to be yesterday in hindsight. It definitely looks like that. Little too controlled. I can't tell if this is fucking accurate or not. And I'm not looking at it on my... Okay, there you go. It's moving. Look at that fucking thing move. There's actually so much volatility on the bond side. It's so funny. They're trying to fill that liquidity. Fucking reacting so much. This is barely any volatility, which is the funniest thing. Fucking spot fix is terrible. But it's reacted, at least. This holding here, I think, says a lot. Says a lot. Again, we're doing very well on the overall value side. Wonder if now is a good time to do some... INTC is not clear. Really not clear. That move is back to where we entered, but I'm still holding that. The HON move is very, very close. The transportation side is disgusting. How much? I think we're rotating a lot. In more value. I think we're about to get a big boost. Looks like a lot of that growth money is coming back over. It causes everything to come down on an average. But if the flow then goes to the value side, we're going to be getting quite some points here. Right, something like X here, it's losing from the average. But then as those flows come from the growth side back into here, then you put more points on than what you started with, right? That's what you see on the overall. That's where, like, if you look at the Dow, you're going to lose points here from the average. But then as the flow then comes back, this is being affected by Apple and Microsoft, but CRM. But as the flow comes back, I think a lot of this again is the fact of it's so obvious. It's so obvious what to be in. And it's like the retail store move that jerked us yesterday. You're getting some take profit to go into these things. Think of the super cycle with commodities and shit like that, right? You're gonna go buy these things. You're gonna buy this shit. And we're definitely seeing it. You're getting out of some of the growth from tech. Look at the lag, right? Think of the lag that we've had after the after the numbers here on some of these, right? I would love another fucking violent. This type of shit is fucking perfect. Heavy and going heavy on value. You know what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna again. I have not had to exit basically any of those positions. I'm just gonna add to that side. I'm gonna add a significant amount to that side. Like taking trades like this, the X side, I'm gonna just double up what I would usually pay. Double the sizings. The healthcare side, all this shit, energy, banks, I'm just gonna double my sizings up and not fuck around with it. It's just so straightforward, and all the money's going there. And I think some of that money for gold and things like that we'll put on. I already had some of that JNUG position, but the timing is very off. Right, the timing's a little off, but these type of positions are great for me. I think you get a lot of good sizing. This is where some of these are important though, where you get some of the more volatile things like GE, BA, these kind of things. BA is not clear. I can't really take these, but it's on the bullish side. Anything that's holding well, anything that's holding is fucking strong as shit right now, right? And that's where this type of stuff is just too much to pass up on. Healthcare sector is so fucking strong. I think people are really waking up to that side. Now we'll see where travel comes in with this. This is probably going to be biggest knee jerk coming off. It's getting negatively affected by the average. Some of these, I'm not going to pull the trigger too much. But if I start to see it, then I'll be fine with chasing a little bit if I have to. Things like BRKB holding is fucking obvious. This really throws the. We're still gonna go with just the mega caps are definitely the route on all this, right? This is like the most obvious buy ever, right? Buying this. Microsoft still holding here, so that's good. Google taking the trade somewhere in here. I'm not sure yet, but we'll go through the mega caps first. Taking this growth move again, I think it's definitely we're going to be more lenient on it on the buy here. This does make some of the other growth tickers um, get pushed out for sure. Oops. Oh, it converted. This is the spot for Zoom. I'm gonna take some risks like this. For COVID winners, I think is fine. So something like this with Zoom down here, 305 is fine. I like that. I talked about the Etsy. The Etsy move continued down. This kind of move here, I'll take a chance on something like this. Earnings coming, fine with it. So still going through the motions here. I think some of this stuff on the fintech side is still getting negatively affected by Bitcoin. And also, if anyone saw yesterday, there was some news coming out about Europe is looking to basically Europe realized that one of their companies can't compete with one of these American giants, so they're gonna have all of them. They're gonna have basically all of Europe is gonna converge to make one company to compete with payment processing and fintech. So there might be some of that there as well, which you should definitely buy on. I think is fine. How much money got thrown here? I think again this T thing. I keep fucking saying it from the open, guys. If there's something going on over here, okay? See how this now moving? See, you can't even call me hindsight Nancy because guess what? I've been telling you the last fucking week that there's something over here, okay? Don't give me that shenanigans. We've been trading this fucking bad boy. Remember? Over here, took this trade. Then it came down and we go, ooh, we're going to take this trade when we can. The gap, this, what do we do here? We bought it. We bought it. This here, there's some trouble. There's trouble brewing. AT&T should not be up 1% when the market's coming down, okay? The market's down 1%. AT&T is never up 1%, and it shouldn't be juxtaposed. So if you don't think there's something there, you're out of your mind. You're out of your goddamn mind. By the way, we're looking great on the essentials, and X is probably going to make us some serious money here. We're already in this trade, but I added more. Doubled it. If you didn't take this trade here, then you have not been following what we've done every single Friday, which is buy X every Friday. We buy X every Friday. You buy it from the open if you can, and then you're done. Very straightforward, nice, consistent trade. You don't get as much because it's consistent now, but days like today, people sold today. If it continues, you're going to get paid for it. You're changing up the volatility on those contracts. I mean, the underlying, but change the price of the contract. Gold, we're going to do well here. I think some of this, again, was lagged a little bit. Let's see. We'll see how this moves here. I think this is going to shoot down very quickly on the dollar. See. Yields are all over the fucking place, which is great. In terms of volatility here, it's probably going to come down pretty quick. I don't know if you can short it, though. Can't. It's going to come down, but you can't really get away with it. You could try to use the short side. This is the inverse, right? And you can go long on it. I just don't know if it's worth. You're not going to get paid anything. You can just trade, just buy other equities. Right? Let's see. Okay. Where do we buy Google is the question. Apple continued down. Freaky down here. Almost at my stop out there. It's rotation into value, but I'm still fine on mega caps. That's my thing. You can see how retail stores are just holding their thing from yesterday. Pretty straightforward. What does this day look like at the end of the day is the question. I hate to have to get so intraday, but what does this day look like at on the intraday? Is it a whip? Is it consolidate and then bid? What's the timing with the bond market? I think we just finished flat on the day. You want me to pull it? Okay. I think it's a good idea. See what you guys are thinking. Help out. I mean, this is probably not the best. Red. Very red. There you go. Very red. We could just go, we'll use that one. I'm not going to vote because if I say green, then you guys will vote green for roll. I think this gets bought though. I mean, I'm being a little biased, but yeah, very red can be, yes, more than 1%. Yes. I think the SPY is the good thing to use here because it's kind of Let's see. This is so much fun. This is so much more fun because we haven't had any volatility in a while. I think my buy is correct. My buy is correct. I think so. And again, the value side is again if you're not this is where you can I can go confident into these trades here because my fucking portfolio is value. So my portfolio is actually doing very well today, which is scary. And that's where I can go pull the trigger on this shit because I know that I'm backed up. Right? It's like you have it's like you literally have a team behind you backing you up when you go fight your bully and go beat the shit out of this kid. This T trade is going to be one of the funny things. I think this is going to be one of the funnier things here that I sniffed this shit coming. Some dog nose right here. I just don't know who and what the merger is, the buying is, whatever the fuck it is, but it's something. It's not. I mean, AT&T's done a lot of purchasing in the past. Obviously, that's why the price is zero. They can't stop buying other companies. They literally can't stop. That's why they're called AT&T. There's a lot of different letters in that fucking name. And that's going to be AT&T and AT&T and VZ and in Emmer. The what? Come on. If I get fucking paid, boys, we're going to the win this weekend. We're going to the win this weekend. By the way, the win down here. Should we repopulate this trade? Is the question. These I fucking hate when this happens, but it's the best time that we can get alpha. Is that these trades were they were pretty nice, right? You get this nice trend through here, and you're really building a strong case, right? That lower trend line builds a lot of confidence, and it continues to sort of fuel the bid coming in. But then you get a day like today. This is a reaction to the market, and that's where when you look at the value side, even it's reacting to the market, but it's not losing really anything. It's just sort of an in the moment sort of thing. That's where you can buy these, and you're getting very significant discounts. It's just not I'm buying this right here on Win, for instance, but it's very sort of you'd have no idea of timing at all. And that's the worst part because this is already chaotic because you did not expect it anyway. None of us here woke up this morning and thought the market was going to sell tech today, right? I mean, we can obviously have it and we know it's this side that's going to move, but it's not like we know the values and what the time is because now what is the timing here? What's the timing? And no one knows now. But the thing is here is that this is not changing, and this is going to keep going to the all-time high. SPY is probably it's right there, right? We're literally right there. We're still right here. We're at all-time high. So again, this type of thing today, gonna be some lessons to learn for sure. Some good lessons. I fucking love it. Wow, I love it. Let me fill here. Everything else is holding. I do like what's green today though. Nice. Full side. Or to compute the growth side. Wonder what this does for. Oh my god! Now we're gonna get so many weird earnings. Earnings reactions. Oh, it's gonna be strange. Things like this. I don't know if we should. Think we should buy it. I think travel, due to its how volatile it get very negatively hit by tech selling here, and travel has nothing to do with tech. think we have to buy all of these. It doesn't feel good, but we have to do it. We already took these trades before. Obviously, we got beat up a little bit here today. Still took profit. I think we have to buy this here. The timing is terrible, though. Yeah, I can buy other things with a lot of confidence. I'm good with it. Some of these other ones, I'm not sure if it's today and right now or later today in the afternoon, right at close, in the open tomorrow. And I think it changes a lot depending on how you do that. Because again, people right now are if calls start to get bought, you're going to be paying a price tomorrow, no matter what happens with the price. You're gonna have to be paying a higher price. And so that already means, well, I could probably just profit off of from here to tomorrow already. And so that's a short-term gain. But if you wait till tomorrow, then you could maybe find a better entry. And so you can use your capital a little bit better. So the cash that you'd spend right now, it may go wasted. But if you wait till tomorrow, maybe you'll have a very efficient entry into something else that you can push for longer, right? And so there is a difference between putting your money into something now and gaining a little bit and waiting to find something that you're going to gain more on, right? Because again, opportunity cost to do this, you're not going to do that. So I think it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell right now. Hard to tell right now. I think the timing is correct. If we get a move to the downside, then I'm taking off all of those, taking off the mega caps and waiting. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. It's very good that we came into here with long-term positions. That's for sure. If you had short-term positions here, you just got blown up. That's exactly why we switched the perspective. If you had May monthlies here, you just lost 100% of your value. You just lost 100% for no reason. It may come back tomorrow and you lost all your money. This is why we switched the script. That's how we do it. And the most important thing is to protect your downside. It doesn't matter how much you think is on the upside and how much it's possible to make by taking a risky trade. The most important thing is not to lose money. Don't lose it. It's easy to make money. You can get a fucking job, right? But it sucks losing money because you have to pay it. Then you have to make back that money you lost. 0 to 100 is a lot easier than minus 100 to 100. Double the work. Let's fucking go, boys. I do like what we got here. We were given some gifts. So this trade from Friday that I took, I've now doubled it off that pullback. But the contracts here from this vault, like from this move, were cheaper than what they were at close yesterday. And so perfect. Doesn't get much better than that. What that turns into. The transportation side's really silly too. Pretty silly. See how much our commodities get going. Here's going to be a good opportunity to see if Bitcoin and cryptos are going to move with, I mean, maybe not cryptos, let's say Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is going to move with the rest of commodities, because coming out of this, we're going to get some more bid on the commodity side. Be very interested to see how much of that gets put into Bitcoin. For instance, if gold is gaining right now, how much is going to get put into Bitcoin? By the way, LMT is doing very well still. Aerospace and defense is a little back and forth, but we've been doing very well on the trending charts there. Let's see. We didn't really get much selling with the tech sell-off. It's not, I mean, hard to say. Let's see. Let's throw this dynamic on here. How's similar? Hard to tell. Hard to tell. I wish we could get a better. Hmm. I mean, it's moving pretty consistent with tech. This move here was with more with Coinbase selling. It caught back up though. So if you remove that, hmm, the Nasdaq was outperforming. Technically, it's still outperforming. It was even outperforming since February. Hmm. Oh, get that. Hey, look, see, S&P's been outperforming the Nasdaq. And look, the Dow's been outperforming the S&P. Value's pretty fucking good, huh? Pretty good. See that? This is from beginning of February. If you start to zoom this in more, you start to get some more. You get the Nasdaq breakout from here. But again, it's the overall that matters more. That's all she wrote. I mean, this is looking pretty spot on so far. We're probably gonna get fucked, but what transportation ETF was that? There's not really a good ETF to be honest with you. They're all very low volume. These are all the individual companies. It's things like C as we gone through. Where's the other? What am I doing here? There you go. EXPD. EXPD is it's a company. Looks like an ETF ticker a little bit, but anything on the it's the sector is more again, it's more on like the industrial side for sure, but then also on the anything on the consumer side is definitely peaking up. Working. XT is it X? Yeah, XTN is the. This doesn't. It's still specific to the tickers that you pick out, right? And that's where we've sort of picked out all the bullish transportation tickers because this is the average. This is when we were trading it heavily, right? And then if you look at the ETF, it's been sort of consolidating through here, but that's not really the story of the tickers we've been looking at here. But I mean, this does look at this thing, disgusting. This is called inflation. It's called bouncing back in the economy, right? Like, look at this today. Like, I mean, it doesn't get much more. It doesn't get much more obvious than that. Go X. Let's go X. I don't know about the K move here. Kind of threw me off. Threw me off a little bit. Still doing okay here. Retail stores are still holding, which is great. You never know. You get a big profit day like that yesterday on paper, and then today happens. Sometimes it's going to erase those gains, but basically all those held today. I mean, when I said the Dow was going to outperform this week, you're really outperforming now. It's not even close. Now it's not even close. Like when it comes to not close. We get here. Germany's down 2%. UK's coming back to break even, it looks. Interesting. Mm-hmm. We're buyers. We're buyers. What do we have on the very... Okay, clean energy is obviously a Snap. Well, Facebook's better than Snap. PCL already took. Z going into earnings today. I mean, it's really fucking cheap now. I think it's a no-brainer. For some risk, easy. Easy trade there. The Myrna trade, again, I'm holding still. Fine with that. We keep interacting with this. There's obviously a trend line here. Keep interacting with it. It's just this is the normal market trend line anyway. But you can see how this came down again, and then we snap back very quickly. It's definitely the reaction to the average, and then the inflow comes. Rad lost quite a bit, which is interesting. Some of the meme economy stocks, we've already talked about that retail has removed itself from the equation, and that we would see volatility because of that. Today's a good example of that, where some of the meme tickers are getting beat up more than the average. That's because retail has paper hands. They literally don't have diamond hands. They think they do, but they don't. They don't even look at the ticker they're trading. They look at fucking Apple or something. Tesla. Oh, it's down. I gotta sell. Again, today is one day out of an entire week. Yesterday we were at all-time high. Today we're down 1.5% from the all-time high. Okay? You're in a dire spot right now. Put yourself into a good spot. Where you got to remove yourself from the equation. You're hurting yourself. I can definitely see it. I can see it in a lot of different tickers, I think. Well, that's selling that comes in because the market's moving, and then that's where it comes back, and then people realize they sold at the low, so they buy back in at the high. And then they sell it from there. You're too much trading, right? It's make a decision and stick with it. And then go with it, right? That's where like I take this trade here and you just stick with it. Right? I'm sticking with it. Doesn't look like it's starting off that great. I'm gonna stick with it until something changes. And again, this is where having good portfolio sort of risk management is going to help so much here. I can really see where some people are probably going to get, it's really going to take away some time from them. Like, they lost value right now, but it's probably just going to turn into them losing time, where coming out of this recent growth breakout, they've continued to trade it short term, and they're trying to be sort of risky day to day. Not like even day traders obviously getting fucked, but the swinging short term trades from growth, they didn't continue, and it was important to switch off that. That's when we switched to long term. Those other people are probably going to have a hard time. It's going to take some time for them to climb back. And if that's you guys or any of you, this is where you got to switch to that longer term. You can react so much easier. You're not getting smacked in the face. You're getting slight breeze. Even if you're only trading growth, right? You shouldn't be, but even if you were, not that hard to react. This move here is fucking obvious, by the way. Guess who that is? That's a bank. This is the bank ETF. That's the bank average moving like a bank. This is what we call the New Yorker. That's the New York move. Not so much I mean, usually it's like a New York fake out, but this is just kind of reaction to the market. Go, oh no, banks are gonna sell. Oh no. That's just called a big spread. There's barely any selling in here. It's just a big spread, allows you to buy at a lower price. Wonder if we have a good example on. UC's probably a good example. You know they're buying. This kind of move here, it's not built up with much volume. I mean, maybe I don't even need to look at the volume chart. It's not so much the volume that matters, because there could be a lot of volume that it's just trading at the same price. It's not going down or up. The spread's tight there. But what's happening here is the spread widens so much because they remove the periodic, those period orders that always get sent through. They remove that. Price gets spread really far, and then you start to put the buys back in. You save millions of dollars doing that, right? When you go from, that's like when the SPY goes from 1 cent to 2 cents and everyone loses their fucking mind, right? Depending on the average spread, you change that up from a few cents to 5 times that or something in just a very quick moment, and then you go buy at a lower price. I mean, you're talking about a lot of money. Market makers already make a shit ton of money from splitting the spread and those fees. Chemical sector. Oh, God, it's so bullish. Why? No one knows. What are we making? Fucking drugs? What are we doing here? I don't know. It's just very technically good, and we keep trading it. We have a lot of chemical sort of companies. Again, when we sort of hound and look for sectors, saying, like, again, it's industrials, but then the subset of that with chemicals, it doesn't really make sense. Like, who fucking knows what any of this stuff is, right? It's nice that the Dow is in the Dow, because it is the Dow. But then the other companies are just kind of like, who fucking knows what these are? The charts are just great, and they produce profit. That's where we can take a bullish sector and go, okay, I'm going to just throw this onto every ticker that's in the sector and see if we can get something to stick. WBT holding up here is so silly. So silly. Ugh. Holding 45% here like it's nothing. You'd love to see it. I just can't wait to see what the end of today looks like, what the end of the week looks like, and then to see what people think. What do we do with Volatility coming back down, obviously. We didn't get a we. It's. I mean, it could still be a quick whip, but we didn't get that fast of a whip or something, right? It wasn't like immediate, but it's very controlled buying. London is almost back to break even. Here, give me one sec, guys. We continue. Nice job. Yeah. Getting that commodities component. That's definitely not what we want. Yeah. Okay. What is that candle? I didn't even see this. That's nice. Oh boy. Are we getting it? We getting it? Come on. Go, go, go. We were seeing all those, like I just looked at EVRI there. We were seeing all those casino sort of subsidiaries put a lot of points on recently, right? Like they do the services and everything else, and we've seen this phenomenon recently of anything that is basically a service provider for an industry, like the middlemen. Those charts start to move first, which is again just sort of the nature of smaller cap size anyway. But very interesting. If the casino move comes on here. This chart is obviously in one way. Let's keep it going, boys. God. What it's all about. Billaman is still holding up there. It's fine. What is that? It's so funny to think that AT&T is always down, and that's why I call it such a shit chart. But now all of a sudden I've started trading it. Look at overall, AT&T is down 19% since its IPO. There's never a time when it's been positive. Look at minus 20, 22, minus 15. Look, got minus 4 at some point here. It's always down. Even from the start of COVID, it's only up 5%. But over here, look at boys. Ever since our low, we've gotten quite a bit of points. Right from here, 13, and it's fucking separating. What is this move here? We're getting, again, there's something here. There's something here. And then you have something like TMUS losing all this value here, and it's opposite to T right now. It's, I mean, what is the story here? I mean, we're gonna keep trading this to the upside, but are we about to get fucking smacked, or is it gonna put more points on? Is the question. I mean, we've gotten bullish on this whole communication side for a while, but then something like this here, and then T continues. Where are we on Verizon? Verizon hasn't moved. This has still been bullish, but even this hasn't gained much. What are we doing, boys? Maybe we'll never know. But T-Mobile is selling off before earnings. Looks like Expedia is going to lead us on that travel move. Oh, if we get that travel timing again, gross. There wasn't much I mean, there's really not much volatility here. We're still right where we were on Friday. Bring it over to the big boy list. Bring it to the big boy list. It's all commodities all the way. Retail stores. Transportation. All the transportation, consumer services. I hate this chart. Flowers. Transportation, oil. The chart is so funny. Rotation, boys. Let's see how many of these mega caps stick. Google's fine. Microsoft has continued. We're very close to 47. Facebook is up in the air. Well, how exactly you handle this? I'm not sure how you. It's very different. The entry here. I think you just flat slate the whole thing and say mega caps buy them. And I don't really want. It's just mega caps. I don't really want anything else on the growth side. Anything I take should definitely be more short term for the risk. I think what we're going to do is we'll wait for close for some of the other ideas. We've added money to value, which is paying off pretty well now. We'll see if any of those mega caps are going to hold that level if we're getting stopped out there. Rest is going to be waiting, besides what we've already sort of captured. See how much of a fucking whip we get. Nails has held very well. I mean, wow. There's a little bit of buying on bonds, but they're selling the 2-year still. We are buyers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. I think the timing's pretty good. I think it's good still. We've seen a little bit further push on something like Microsoft to switch that, but it's almost 11 o'clock now. I don't think volume being removed is going to cause the market to. It wouldn't cause it to sell more. The tech is obviously in question. I mean, value continues to trend. Lost some. Energy continues to be strong. Transportation, all of industrials, anything on the current fiscal spending side. Tech selling. But we have some things sticking out. Holding a level now going into lunch. If bonds revert back, dollar goes down. We might get a weird if let's say we get a melt up lunch from here, that does possibly lead into take profit at close though. We'll have to watch that for tech. I don't even know if the S&P is the. Let's separate these ideas actually. Let's separate the ideas. We'll look at the Nasdaq and then look at the Dow. For now. May 4th. What does the weekly look like? Start the week. Hold on. Where's Brian been? Brian's working. Or that's what he. I think he's working. Work does suck. In this weekly chart's obviously funny. Oh god, we're gonna fucking put so many points on. I can feel it. Look at the fucking Dow weekly chart. Oh god. I wonder what does a small cap? Still holding that trend. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. See what this move turns into. I mean, technically, the Nasdaq has a little bit further to go to this trend line, which which are the connected lows here from the recent consolidation, and it's also the exact same sort of angle as our usual trend lines in markets. So it is possible you come into here, but that sounds more like a story of pushing this way. Maybe you get you know. So there's definitely some tickers that we can wait to buy on this trend line, this idea, and we'll see what the timing is. I didn't really think about it earlier, but because the S&P can hold this, right? S&P can hold further over here with support Dow. We'll see how these all add up. What is moving? It's just Microsoft? Wait, I don't understand. Huh? Did everything just get an extra percent down or something? Guess so. Wasn't the mega caps. Interesting. Interesting. That was interesting. Because these all held the same pace, and then we just lost like a couple points on the Nasdaq. So that's nice. So again, taking the mega caps over some other smaller, smaller tech companies, it was working there. Um, I got a little excited earlier to jump out when we bought the Zoom down here, and then this whipped up. Now it's back down. I was like, what a buy. I mean, these are showing. I think you're definitely getting some rumbling out there of everyone's buying value and shit, but you can see some of these growth tickers that people are buying that it's like, what are we doing here? That's kind of how I feel. Kind of feel like, what are we doing here? If we build up the support a little bit longer, God, what is going on with this donkey chart? Back into the channel. That's untouchable. Still in the GE chart or position. Let's go. Bring the bulls out. Bring the bulls out. Bulls were sleeping. There's really not a fucking. You would think there's a fight going on, but there's basically no fight going on. Usually, I could paint a script right now. The bulls and the bears are fighting in the chain, and they're fighting to push the prices and keep the value. And there's no fight happening. Like there was no fight. So again, this was all pre-market and from the opening dump, and that was it. There's just normal trading. Like there's no long positions being exited, no long positions being entered. There's nothing happening right now. It was all pre-market and leading into just the very first few minutes there, which does it. We're just back to normal, right? Just normal. But I think there's still like some anxiety, and it seems like something's gonna be volatile here. But the volatility would be like some whip here or from a melt up into a whip, like a swing down, profit taking at close, which I think is a possibility. I think you get a melt up here, and then come 230, leading towards that like power hour, you start to take profit into close. If you get enough of a whip, I mean, excuse me, enough of a melt up, I could see that happening. I wonder what hedges do here. I didn't really think about that. You take profit on hedges? These price moves are so disconnected. And we're just back to the web. I mean, maybe we wait till open. Remember, these moves here, they all started to... These are all opens right here. 9:30. 9:30. This is the low. These were hedges. This was hedging. I guess you can't take profit on hedges because it's not low enough. Unless somebody put hedges on up here, but we didn't really see any of that. Fucking ominous spot. All right, what's getting filled? Like, what is getting filled with this cat? Like, with this money? We're in all the value. This just, it's going somewhere. Somebody's filling dark pools. I mean, obviously the value is the, but what specifically? Something we're in? I mean, we're gaining a lot on a lot of these industrials, transportation ideas. That's money being spent at the same time. So we have some of that flow, but it's not enough. It's not equal. We have some money being spent on bonds, but we still have quite a bit being sold on the 2 year being bought. We have bonds being bought on the 10 year, but in long term. Dollar. Dollar's not gaining much, so it's not going to the dollar, right? Money's not going to the dollar. Where's the money? The money's being spent at the same time it's being sold. Not really equal. A lot of fucking, all of the commodities and everything else. We don't specifically see it in gold. You don't specifically see it in silver. Bitcoin sold with tech. What the fuck? Didn't even see that. Rip. Fucking Camping World. Retail stores. No. Just give us the buying. Doubt out of my mind. This is happening because I haven't got my vaccine yet. I get my vaccine at 2 o'clock, guys. As soon as 2 o'clock hits, just wait. The jab will be followed by a jab in the market. Reminder, your vaccine is today. I'm going to Rite Aid, so long rad. Long rad. It's getting beat up, but look at this whip. Let's go. Get in there. Let's go take that whip. Take the rad. Take the rad ride. Can you believe that vaccines are free? Who's paying for it? Oh, wait a second. Taxes, right? Oh, never mind. Not free. You just don't see it. You're telling me I paid how much is the vaccine percentage compared to the taxes that we just paid? Did I just pay like 20 grand for this vaccine? Fuck. $206. Go to 1. Oh, and I'm getting the Moderna. That's obviously why we're long Moderna. Why did I just spell the name out? You can tell. You know. All right, now we're waiting. We're waiting. We're waiting to see what happens next. It's hard to, I mean, it's hard to tell. This coming down now. Give me some. To tell. Microsoft's selling down. That's obviously out of the picture. Google holding like usual. Facebook's fine. It's a good thing we're in Value City, boys. We're living in the right part of town. Everyone on the other side is living in Overtown right now. Some tough times over there. Unless they entered on like the from the breakout, then you've only lost about 2%. Gained 15%, lost 2. Trying to get in there. Buy these damn dips. Buy the goddamn dip. Hmm. It's fucking trend line back. Whoops. What do we have it right there? Where's that? Okay, well that's the second stop. That's where we. By the way, that's where we had the trend line before. I just deleted it when I put this one there, so we could see it. Where this should line up. Yep. Where that lines up. It's basically the same. Hmm. There's so much horizontal support here on the Dow. Makes this a lot more straightforward. So if there is a break, then it's a little bit more. Again, it's so oriented by just the tech here, right? Apple. BA is an outlier, and I talked about this earlier. This is a bit of an outlier. But CRM, INTC, Microsoft, right? The Goldman move's a little bit of an outlier as well, which trying to find an entry here is going to be an important thing to take this trade. Be nice. Again, we don't really have opportunities on the other banks. The other banks are sort of just up. They haven't lost anything. Okay, let's see how this goes here. This is our if it goes below this trend line, then I'm changing bias a little bit. Or at least again, The bias hasn't changed on the value side, but I would change it on the growth side, where I'm willing to buy dips on growth still through mega caps. If there's this so far is not changing bias, but if it breaks the trend line here, then I'd be waiting. For now, I'll be buying these supports all the way through. Buying it all the way through. And again, I'm still in the other position. Still haven't come off yet. But to come through the trend line, did too much. Especially if we're looking at through like the SPY here. And then on the Q side is this trend line here. You can see we're right there as well. So let's see how this goes. But again, I'm buying this. Nothing changed yet. We have like a tiny bit of take profit on the energy side. Again, I think it's this average here. This average here is removing some of the value there. It's not, again, it's not selling. Retail stores have held. Consumer services have held. Actually still bullish. Industrials are bullish, gaining on the day. Transportation gaining on the day. Healthcare gaining on the day. Or holding. I think my idea here is still intact. You're going to see a switch here on the bonds, I think. Whoops. I think it's going to switch. It's so funny how they're fucking doing that. Once they're done buying the liquidity on the bonds, it's on the 2-year. But this is almost opposite. Hmm. Fucking game theory. They're gonna buy this shit. They're gonna buy it all. I know they are. These fuckers, I just know they are. I'm not being a pussy. Not being a pussy. I'm not being a pussy. Get the value side out. I mean, value side's all figured out. Don't have to even look at it. This growth side, things I just got stopped out of, things I had to sell, things I had to take profit on. I'm fucking buying this shit. More. Google hasn't moved. It's fucking not even moving. The chart's not loading. Microsoft here, this sold a lot more. Sold a lot more than you expect here. There's not even supports or anything because we're in the middle of nowhere. We get the trend line though. This is a buy. They're gonna buy back. They're gonna buy back. Google already bought back. Everyone is going to buy back on the tech side. They have so much cash. They have so much cash. I don't know what it looks like, but they have a lot of fucking money. And you can push price really quick. And it only takes one of them. It takes literally one of them. And we saw it with Google already. Where you look at the Google chart and you go, oh, huh. Really makes you think. Really makes you think when you see some fucking candles like this. A good spot for it. 2271, 2270. BA here is still up in the air. I don't know. think you have to wait on this now. This is not the same. It's not the same. On the value side, like this, you have to wait more, I think. GE's been fine on the support here, right? And that's the difference. That's a difference maker. And then we have things like we're long on the LMT chart, and this is great. So I want to be playing leaders. I don't want to be playing things that are getting beat up. It's the same thing with growth where I'm trying to get into these trades. I'm going to go trade the fucking mega caps. There's nothing else to. You're not going to be able to pinpoint timing on anything else. It's too volatile at the low. So I'm not going to really screw around with any of those. There's some things that obviously we picked up, but trying to pick software companies out and shit. I mean, what are we gonna do? What do we know? We don't know shit. We don't know Jack. You don't know Jack. Uber here. I mean, I don't. I feel like these have to be bought though. If we can get fintech to come down to the supports, it's like a little bit lower on each chart. This is a very interesting move here as well. I don't know what that is. A lot of selling. I mean, if the Z comes, I mean, trying to figure out the timing on this is not clear, but I don't know. How do you? I don't think you can get the timing right here. You're gonna have so for anyone that's trying to buy some lows here, you're going to need to give yourself some percent buffer, right? You buy and it goes down another percent, you're going to need to be willing to do that because you're not going to time it anyway. And then you're going to waste time trying to sell it and then buy back in. It's like a waste of time, right? How far is that? Z is, I mean, it's then either way. Mega caps, we at least know they'll buy, I think. I think it's given. I think so. Google already bought, but I want to look at things like ARC. ARC getting fucked, obviously. Nice move so far, coming off the support. Oh, this is toasty. Let's go, boys. Let's go. Come on. Come. Get some short-term bets here. And we're looking at 15-minute candles here. If you switch this over to 5-minute, you can't really. Yeah, it's just it's too much. It's just a little bit too much. You could be like, wow, look at this doji right here. Tiny little candle. We're definitely going to swing to the upside. Not. Can't tell. You gotta switch to the. You gotta switch this bad boy over. Come on. Would love to get paid on a big growth dip buy like this. That last growth trade we took was coming on a breakout. We bought on the dip multiple times. It finally paid off, but it was a long-term sort of scenario. This here is very short-term. This is just a pullback within the move already. Pays very differently. Pays very differently. And we get this fucking trade right here, and we swing back up to the open price and get paid significantly. Significantly. Buying the fucking fear of. It's not even retail. It's just kind of. Again, I don't even know who. It's too connected, but the timing is what's difficult here, because it could be waiting until later in the week for these to like crawl back up. Whatever. I mean, we're not losing much, just losing some time. Still rate a percent and a half away from the all-time high, right? But taking advantage of these opportunities here, I think, still must be done. I think for if you're taking any short term, if you took any short term trades right here, I think a lot of it is going to be about that timing with them. If it's a melt up through lunch, and then trying to time that 2 to 3 o'clock area with getting out of some of those, pushing it up, take some of that profit to cover whatever. You could certainly turn it. If you have a red day so far, you can certainly turn it into a green day. I'm looking to do that with some of these trades here. You take that profit right before close, and then put maybe a new trade on if it is taking profit at close. So you take profit right before that starts to happen. You wait and see. If the price continues, then you can add on a new position anyway, or you can just keep pushing the position you have. But you're gonna be looking to take profit on those to cover losses. And then if we do get a take profit into close because we melted up during lunch, then you can buy on that low going into the end of the day, and you're getting a nice a risk trade there, pushing into tomorrow. I think when you add it up, we had to. If you just isolate yesterday's candle and today's candle, you have 2 selling days in a row, and then it's just a pullback up into a bid tomorrow. If you did get to take profit at close, be interesting. A couple different ways to set it up to cover. Again, you can have a red day for sure. Definitely can have a red day. Just don't know what this move looks like. If we get, where are the momentum traders? Give us the momentum traders right here. I love that. The quicker the better. The quicker the better. Slow is fine, but faster better. I like that. Like that around these parts. Peeking through. See a lot of green coming through. You're gonna sell, you sell everything at once. We would need to see continued selling if it's gonna sell more. At least from the average when you look at S&P, Nasdaq, looking at the indices, and then when you look at the mega caps. They would sell everything at once. But continue to sell. We would not whip through here and then sell more. It's not how institutions work. They can't do it. Valued out of my mind. We're obviously we're obviously going to get more points gained on this on our long positions. Going to raise the baseline up a lot. Going to raise it up a lot, which I'm fine with. Why we position the way we do. Turns into. You're finished a little bit more bearish at the end of the day. Okay. Let's go. Next week, continue here. Very nice. Very nice. It's funny. Go. Wonder what option volumes look like right now overall. Probably significant buying, which we haven't seen in a little while. Again, by the end of the day, you're most likely going to see most of these the value tickers have a lot more points on them. They're going to be putting a lot of points on coming towards the end of the day, and it's not things are not immediate. Markets are not they don't move instantly. You get some selling in tech. We know where it's going, right? It's not going to be immediate, but you're going to be seeing it. So again, when we look at the end of the day, when we look at sort of our list here, we already see what we understand what's at the top right now. We understand what's moving, what's holding value at least. Hasn't sold. By the end of the day, those are all going to be gaining points. They're all going to have gained points. And so I think these are kind of very obvious sort of things. And this is where a day like today is really interesting. And it's really about who's able to get who can make moves quicker, right? It's like we're all on the same track here. We're just a little faster. We're smaller. We can go get into those positions before others. Or at the very least, if we're in them already, we can add more. Pay that cheaper price. The growth side, of course, when we're trading tech, we're taking some risk. Trying to we don't know the low, so we keep trying to take the low, not losing too much to take it, right? And also I've done some short-term trades to you possibly get a very nice swing there, very quick, and gain some profit that covers any losses anyway. But it's definitely an opportune day. I mean, this is a lot of opportunity being thrown at us that I don't think anyone expected to really get. What causes tech to sell today? Again, I think it was just a decision to take some of the profits today to go further into some of the value tickers. The bond market's fucking with us a little bit. People are obviously purposely selling off the 2-year to they're selling off the 2-year to go buy longer term treasuries. Okay, sure. Whatever floats your boat. The yields aren't even going up. This is where when we had growth, when we had tech going down before, it's because yields were rising. Right now yields are going down, right? So is tech going down because yields are going down? Well, that's the opposite of what was happening before, right? And it doesn't even make sense. So again, I think we got it. No, there's someone out there that's just trading X anyway. Good job. The fucking beautiful, beautiful site right there. There's 20% since Friday's open. Oh god. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Rome was built in a day. Only takes one. Only takes one. All right. We've got the plan. We've got the plan in motion. We will see. Again, I would say a very sensitive area is that 2 o'clock, like 2 to 2:30 in that area. I think is a very sensitive time because if there is any sort of again, I'll just say it. Yesterday, we definitely had some game theory going on in markets with the way shifts were working, and we saw this rotation very quickly into into value in the retail sector. That was very quick, and it was very purposeful from last week, the way it sold into it. If any of that is continuing to today, then definitely we should be watching in that 2 to 2:30 area, or coming out of that lunch break. If there's anything that's coincides with whatever's happening from here, if we melt up to 2:30, watching for take profit there at 2:30. If anyone's trying to take advantage of something there, it's gonna be important. If we continue to trade flat here, maybe you know pushing flat, or maybe trending just downtrending right here very slowly, then looking in that 2:30 for a lot of buying, it's gonna be important. These orders are not hitting the exchange. They're all gonna be dark pulled, and they're just going to fucking the price is gonna appear, right? Those orders are getting filled. So it's going to be like, again, when we have days like today, if there is something going on under the, you know, you know, behind the curtains here, then it's very much like how, you're at the fucking beach and the waves are the waves are, or excuse me, the water's pulling in, and you're like, where's the water going? And then the wave comes in, right? And I don't mean that in like a crashing sense. I just mean we do get this, right? Where we sort of have this pullback, and then it leads to everyone rushing at the same time. Now, it can be said that I have talked a lot about a lot of prices tightening right now, and you have all this, it's sort of just building up pressure, and then we can definitely say that some of that tightening led to selling today, right? I mean, it doesn't matter that I thought prices were going to go up and they came down. It still should be said that on a technical side, we saw prices tightening a lot, and we knew they had to make a move, right? I kept saying it. Prices need to make a move. I thought it was going to go to the upside, even for growth. Now, we saw it go up for value, but I thought even up for the growth side, it would go up. We saw it come down instead from that sort of this buildup and this tightening and reaching an equilibrium that you have to go some way. This all came from pre-market action, came from that opening sort of sell, and now we're getting into, this is very close to all-time high. So now it's a question of, is that opportunity to everybody? Is it, again, do people choose sides here? Again, we've already chosen sides. I don't think anything's changed, so I'm pretty sure everyone's going to buy the shit out of this, and I think the individual companies themselves are going to buy, and I think that's the important note here, is the buyback factor, that this lines up perfectly for buybacks. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that, it lines up exactly when everyone wants to fucking do it, right? And that's where I think using some of those ideas, like when you look at banks here, it's just, I mean, it's the most obvious fucking thing in the world. Like, I can tell you right now, Bank of America is buying back right there. Like, what do you think this is, right? What do you think this is? Like, why does it look fucking strange? Well, let me tell you, because they're fucking buying it, right? It's them. That's what they do. That's what you do, right? So, I don't think this is weak. Could definitely be wrong. Was certainly a little wrong about the move coming here. Everyone gets surprised, obviously. But I think our reaction is very good here. And I think having some stones here is going to pay off. And so, again, if you're not getting paid for the industrial move, I'm sure all of you fucking bought X because you guys are X junkies. And I typed it into chat, and you're like, oh, fuck yeah, let me get involved. So it's going well. Everything else is looking very good. I'm very interested to see what happens on this T move. This is a little, whatever. I mean, I've already said it enough. I do think that there's something here. I don't know if it, again, I don't think it leads to like long-term upside. I think it's a right now thing, right? AT&T fucking is always flat for its whole existence. Sucks. Chart blows. But right now there's something here that we're taking advantage of. We've been gaining on. I'm very interested in. It's this whole sector. So we'll see. Again, energy banks looking fucking great. So we're doing well, and healthcare has been awesome. So very, very happy to see that again. That hasn't moved. So we'll see what happens here at close. Again, 2:30. Be watching there. I would definitely be watching, because if there's anything bad or good that's going to happen, it will most likely be in that proximity of time. So I will see you guys this afternoon. I'm gonna go get fucking needled in my ass or whatever they do now with vaccines. I got to get my jab so that I do not spread COVID. So I will see you guys this afternoon. I'll be here. Enjoy your lunch.